Welcome. It is a pleasure to be here. The Hanwha Techwin America team today will talk about who's here and representing us. It is our pleasure to be at the Genetec Elevate 21 event. Genetec is one of our best partners, not only in North America, but globally. We enjoy their innovation, their desire to elevate the industry, and work on cyber and security throughout the ecosystem. And that's one of the things that we want to focus on with them at all times. So again, we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and we'll get going. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Tom Cook. I am now the Executive Vice President of Sales and Operations of North America. With us today and carry most of the presentation will be Ray Cook, who is our VP of Product Solution and Integrations for all of the Americas. And also we have Aaron Sachs, who is our manager of our training program throughout North America. Matthew Mendler, who is our manager of integration of all the Americas and handles and works directly with all Genetec engineering and integration team. And then Spencer Hilmenberger, he is our field application engineer and works directly with Matt and testing of the integration along with some other duties that he has. So, how many people know who Hanwha is? Hanwha Techwin America is part of Hanwha Aerospace, which is also part of Hanwha Group. It is a $60 billion corporation. We are a division, which is a $4 billion division within that. And we trade publicly on the South Korean Stock Exchange. Sorry. Anyway, so we are a very big company and a division within it, and we focus globally on it. But in North America, we are the #2 camera manufacturer and growing. We've had tremendous success and bring a lot of innovation to the industry, and we're very proud of that. One of the top reasons why is we develop our own system on a chip, or what they call SoC. Right now, it is a WiseNet 7, and it's actually a 5th generation of our WiseNet series or SoC line. We feel this chip, which drives all of our cameras, has the top cybersecurity level within the industry. And a lot of it, we work directly with Genetec to develop security protocols to make sure that you are providing the utmost best, not only video system, but secured system out there. And I encourage you to work with your Genetec salesperson to talk about the partnership and the level of protection that we work together on, and constantly will come out with new solutions to improve the cyber protection of all the security systems. Again, our engagement talks about a full integration of not only video, but all our analytics and what we call our Synapse protocol. Our firmware vault is included with the Genetec product and what we call our Synapse. Probably the most interesting thing we've seen since 2020 when we introduced the AI product, AI cameras, was Genetec and us put together an AI plugin to support the forensic searching. And again, it's great to have these features at the edge, but it's most important so the end user can use them. Search on red shirts on a person, blue pants, at a certain time frame, blue car, white car, whatever. So again, doing that searching capability is critical. Go back to the innovation. That's just one part. We were the first to come out with these AI cameras, but we've also been very successful in leading the industry in the multi-sensor market, with having PTRZs built into multi-sensor and many other features that a lot of companies did not have at the time. Finally, I want to finish up here by talking about our partner program. When you work with us as a partner of Hanwha Techwin, you get a 5-year warranty and a 3-year advanced replacement. We understand the need for an integrator to have an advanced replacement program, as you have cameras on site, usually installed. No end user wants any camera down for any time. If in fact a camera goes down, our dealers have the ability up to 3 years to replace that camera with an advanced replacement in hand. So again, we think our programs, our product, and our partnership with Genetec are probably the best in the industry. And I'd like to leave that and have Ray Cook take you on from here. Thank you.
So now, before we talk about our latest and greatest technology, WiseNet 7, and that's the chipset that powers so much of what we can do in the camera, like Tom mentioned, we like to look back at how we evolved to this point, including actually when I joined the company, and Tom was already here, Aaron was already here, but WiseNet 3 in 2013, that's where we had the 60 frames per second, 2 megapixel, and some other breakthroughs, some phenomenal wide dynamic range even back then. Then WiseNet 5 came along, and it was that and more with higher resolutions and lower light. And actually with WiseNet 5, that was when innovations like sound classification analytics, using that audio waveform right on the camera edge, that's when that came along. And now, throughout history, leading to this point, we've continued to innovate with that optical, but more than just that chipset, with the optical and the mechanical design, and really just you know, the most demanding levels of quality assurance. So next, we're going to see you know, kind of lead in now to the present day with even more firepower for image quality, frame rate, resolution. So let's get there with some highlights about WiseNet 7. Let's go. So it's mapped out here, starting with 4K at 30 frames per second, and 2 and 4 megapixel at 60. That's the improved image quality, you know, and frame rates. Even though WiseNet 5 was great, WiseNet 7 is that much more dense in terms of its the pixel processing capacity in that video pipeline. And with that, each pixel is better with things like extreme wide dynamic range. We're going to show you that in a minute. Low light image processing as well. That's another improvement. And LDC, which is secret code for lens distortion correction. That makes those straight edges, those what would otherwise be like a building that is kind of curved at the edge of the frame, that looks straight like it should, like the human eye would tell you that that's a straight edge. And next level cybersecurity, and on this one, we'll have a real expert have more to say shortly about that, right, Aaron? Aaron will explain. I won't steal a thunder, but he's going to cover about the data protection, secured hardware, and those things. Building suspense for you, Aaron. Multi-channel support is another breakthrough area. So on a single chipset, delivering a video pipeline processing for 4 channels. And it's important to bear in mind, especially those of you that are new to us, the principle of a made-for surveillance SoC chip from a camera manufacturer. You don't find that, which is, you know, if you're new to us, you need to know that our WiseNet 7 SoC, like its predecessors, we designed this specifically for your surveillance purposes. So this is part of how we can build into that camera not only more performance at a lower price, because we can control that very expensive component, but also reducing how many other components are necessary, which means you get that performance, but you are able to reduce power consumption for that level of camera performance. And since we're talking about multi-channel, I'll build suspense for you, Matthew, because when it comes to our fisheye, there's good news about how this multi-channel is handled and integrates with Genetec. So next, let's take one of those. Let's show off just one example of that powerful video processing and go into cybersecurity after that. Just one example would be like WiseNet 7's extreme wide dynamic range. Again, that's our own innovation to sharpen the contrast and the clarity. The mission here is we want to avoid losing details that you need to see, like these faces in this doorway. So as we zoom in, even under these hostile lighting conditions, what we get is now conventional cameras these days do often provide some common, kind of some degree of wide dynamic range. It's not uncommon, but with details preserved, there's also details that are lost when a camera is merely using that multi-frame. That's what is conventional today, multi-frame method for dynamic range. We, in addition to that, use a local contrast enhancement technology of our own that augments the familiar technology that kind of everybody has access to and can use. So this gives you unrivaled contrast and clarity when the way we are doing it. All right, next. And as promised, Aaron is going to talk about our superb proven cybersecurity, and then Matthew and Spencer will pick up within this topic. I'll just point out the fact that there's many topics that are combined in this presentation. The entire time would not be enough to talk about all aspects of cybersecurity. So, in fact, Aaron,
there we go.
A Bixby certified course that you could take on this subject alone. So this is just an appetizer. And now, Aaron, the suspense. Thanks for that little payback for suspense. Nice.
I went to start speaking, my machine just went crazy. Okay, sorry about that. So, as Ray mentioned, we developed and designed our own WiseNet 7 chipset specifically for our cameras for surveillance purposes. And over the years, as each generation increases, we've been listening to feedback and talking to our partners and constantly improving and innovating various aspects of cybersecurity. So you can see different pieces here and there. So I'm just going to go really quickly and kind of talk about some of the parts. But starting at the top, the integrity is really, really critical of making sure that the software that gets loaded into the device, any network device, is secure and is protected. Whether that's the initial out of the factory or doing a firmware update, and you'll hear more about this from the Genetec side of what we can do with the firmware vault of making sure it's secure delivery. But on the camera side, we're making sure that the firmware is secure. We're using a trusted platform module using secure boot to make sure that the camera boots up safe and secure and validates any software that's running on it so nothing gets injected into it. We have a secure open platform, so if you're loading additional apps, third-party or first-party apps into the camera, that those are secure as well. We secure the physical hardware besides just the TPM using a secure JTAG. That's a diagnostic and service port you'll see on a lot of electronic devices. And then we make sure that things like the certificates that are loaded in the camera come from our own private certificate authority to validate, the camera, to validate that firmware, to validate what's going on. And again, for the trusted platform module. We've invested this past year or so into the UL CAP, the Cyber Assurance Program, which is a new program from the UL to look at specifically cybersecurity of these type of embedded devices. So we've been rolling out our new products using that certification, and they look at a whole host of things from the firmware, the source code, our policies and procedures, how we patch things, how we update things, encryption modules and methods. All of that's looked at, as well as in Europe, there's the Secure by Default certification to look at the product out of the box to make sure there aren't things like default passwords, to make sure that Things that don't need to be running aren't running, like Telnet or FTP or SSH attack vectors. And then in terms of data protection, we make sure that our data at rest, our data at transit are all secured using encryption. So you'll hear more about this, of how we work with Genetec to do secure transmission of usernames and passwords, the API web page data, if you're going to the camera web page, all the way down to the video being transmitted securely as well. And if you're using SD card, if you're putting video at the edge as well as into your archiver, that video can be encrypted as well to secure the physical side of an SD card on the edge. So that's kind of a quick, broad overview. We do have a detailed white paper going into more details about any of these pieces here. And in terms of that integration piece, and I think I'm going to take the beginning of this slide, and I think I pass it off to the next person. But we always used digest authentication. So when we send a username and a password from Genetec to a camera, from a web browser to the camera, we never send it in clear text. Even if you're not using HTTPS mode, it's always encrypted. And so that way we're not leaking out your credentials. Very important. And then the firmware vault is a way for you to be easily notified if there's a new firmware for a Hanwha camera, and it can color code it if it's a critical update, meaning a cybersecurity related update. And right from the Genetec interface, you can easily upgrade the firmware. The firmware is pulled securely from the Hanwha side into the Genetec platform on their back end to make sure it's secure, make sure it came from the right place, and then it delivers it to your servers and to your cameras easily and securely. We can, like I said, we can certainly use HTTPS or TLS encryption. Like I said, that can encrypt the API data that uses either built-in certificates, or you can load your own certificates from a CA. We support 802.1x for encrypted communications on your network side to lock down your network ports based on certificates to identify those devices. That's highly recommended for secure locations or for enterprise applications. And then we also do support the SRTP protocol, Secure Real-Time Protocol. And that's a way of using the HTTPS or the TLS encryption to encrypt the RTSP video stream. So that way the full end-to-end pipeline from camera to the archiver is fully encrypted.
So I was going to talk a little bit about device password management. I know that, back when I started as an integrator, way back in the 4.7 days of Genetec, hardware inventory was a feature that didn't exist yet. It was actually a feature request that, my company, as well as a few other integrators, said, hey, for as-is documentation or as-built documentation, this would be spectacular since all of that data is already in the system. And then that has progressed over time now to device password management. And our cameras at Hanwha do support the ability with that tool to update the passwords on all those cameras, because we know the last thing that we want to do from a cybersecurity standpoint is leave a default password camera out in the field. So with that tool and that integration, it's a lifesaver, and I'm happy to see that it's here now.
And then we also have full Genetec now has full support of our Synapi API. So when adding our devices, you get the full feature set and performance and setup ease that comes with our Synapi API. And then we also have increased the number of models supported in Stratocast, but we'll save that for a little bit later as well. Right.
Okay, let's jump in and look at that fisheye that we did. At PTZ Plus. So this will get us in from the feature level of awareness to some examples of our new cameras powered by WiseNet 7. So this is the series of PTZ Plus that we've already started launching. This starts with our IR and wiper models, and then there are also IR and standard PTZs, all available as 2 megapixel, 6 megapixel, and 4K, and all with very good zoom range. And of course, we'd love to show that off. But before we show zoom range, let's start with auto tracking on the next slide. So what you're going to see here is PTZ auto tracking that's actually powered by an object classification AI. So as this demo kit plays and as the clip replays, you're going to see some things that that the clip is meant to emphasize, where this AI-based object classification is obviously it's accomplishing auto tracking, but as it loops, we're seeing how it's a virtual unshakable auto track. Because even with occlusion with big objects like that bus and the other people in the crosswalk that'll happen in a few seconds, the camera's able to track a specific object. All right. Now we've seen that and recognize what's going on there. Let's show IR zoom in no light or low light. And as this slide opens, let's first look at the left. You're going to see the camera and the adaptive IR elements, and you're going to see there's tele, there's mid, there's wide angle elements with our adaptive IR. So what that means is you're actually using this to reach into 200 meters of low light or no light. And what that means is you're not having to carpet bomb the area, the view shed, with IR light. You're able to actually narrow that cone to just the area that you need to cover with that IR light. This is actually right outside our HQ, and the street that we're the corner, you see us zooming into this little dimly lit corner, and as you see it repeat, you'll notice that this low light corner becomes very recognizable, likeness of this person we know well, and the signage there that's easy to read. So 600 or so feet, probably 650 or so feet of distance, even without good lighting, all powered by WiseNet 7. And of course, some great mechanical design as well. That's in optics. So next, the long-awaited fisheye. So this is some amazing optical and IR innovation going on here, and also some great news for our improved Genetec integration, thanks to Team Genetec. So Aaron, you want to pick it up?
Yeah, so fisheye cameras have been around for quite a few years, and they have some great use cases of not having blind spots, being able to digitally pan, tilt, and zoom after the fact. A lot of great things, but they typically had some drawbacks, and that would be as you move further away from the center, as you move to the edge, you would start losing your pixel density. You would start looking blurry, meaning you try to zoom in, you get less details. So typically a lot of people have started moving away from fisheyes and using multi-sensor. And, we love multi-sensor. We have a full lineup of them, but multi-sensor, you have multiple heads. It's more cameras. It's more bandwidth. It's a different beast altogether. So what we've done is we've enhanced our fisheye cameras using a stereographic lens technology. Like Tom and Ray mentioned at the beginning, we are manufacturing all these different parts, from the glass to the optics, and designing our own cameras to achieve these new technologies. And so what it does is, if you look on the right, when we zoom in on our new WiseNet 7 based fisheye camera, we're significantly enhancing the clarity, the resolution, the detail on the edge portion of the image, so that you get true edge, from one edge all the way to the other edge, full resolution, full detail, and clarity, making fisheyes more usable in a wide variety of applications. Next. And then the other thing that we did is we recognize that people put fisheye cameras in different applications, whether it's wall mount or ceiling mount, and depending on where the camera is mounted in relation to the other walls and things, sometimes you run into an IR oversaturation, where it's really bright, it's shining back, and you can't make out anything. So we've added in what we call the Wise IR that allows you, depending on wall or ceiling mount, to optimize 2 different or 3 different zones in the camera to manually control and adjust the IR level, allowing you to optimize and make sure you get that great quality image, again, edge to edge for everything, depending on your use case there.
And with with the XNF 9010 in Security Center, you get support for camera side dewarping. So now because it contains, like Ray was saying earlier, the WiseNet 7 chip being able to support multiple channels, you can create up to 3 additional channels, and those extra three can be different dewarp views. So in the screenshot, you see the first channel is the overview channel, the fisheye channel, but then in channel 2, it's the quad, and channel 3, it's the dual panoramic, and in channel 4, you could have, in this case, one of the single quads from one of the singles from the quad, and each of them can have up to the 8 simultaneous H.264, 265 streams, and like with all of our multi-channel devices, it's only 1 license in Security Center, as well as digital BTZ presets.
Yeah, so with those digital PTZ presets, it's cool that we have this feature, but we also still do traditional dewarping inside the Genetec software. And those digital PTZ presets, you can save the most interesting portions of that fisheye lens view, save those as presets, and then share that with the rest of your team with a saved task or with a camera layout. It's very helpful.
Thanks, Spencer.
Yeah, the camera shows up once you've created those virtual channels. It shows up like a multi-sensor, so it's easy to work with, and it really, for your end users, some of them have a hard time grasping the idea of a fisheye. It's great for playback to make sure I don't miss anything, but you have the ability to have those virtual channels to dive in and see what you want to focus in on. If you want to record them, you certainly can, or they can be for live viewing. You kind of mix and match, and you really get a lot of flexibility of how to do it. And you're really leveraging camera side and your Genetec server side technology all together.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. So we've shown how this technology can make it easier for the person, for the human, for the user to see what needs to be seen. Now let's see what happens when the person needs some assistance from, in this example, AI. So the best way to experience our AI cameras is with our Genetec plugin to deliver that integrated intelligence. So what we see first, we have a bunch of concepts getting thrown at you all at once here. So we're gonna explain and absorb. The AI cameras use machine learning models to pick up objects like people, cars, even plates and faces. Now, on top of this object classification, and that helps to reduce false alarms. But in addition to that, we're also extracting features of those objects. So as we see objects, what you're going to see is a best shot on the left-hand side, running by, streaming by. These are the best shot that are taken for all those objects. And what you'll also notice is below each best shot, I know it's scrolling pretty fast. That's why it loops so that we can kind of look at what's going on. Scrolling by, at the bottom of each best shot, you're going to see the attributes. So, for example, you'll see a color dot for that attribute. That'll be the color. And then as well as the icon to the left, that'll be the vehicle type for the vehicles that are attributes. If these were people, then that would obviously reflect that. Okay, next. So the plugin in our own Genetec AI camera plugin, it uses these attributes to let you filter your forensic search, not just for the show me the cars or show me the trucks, but show me red cars and so forth. So that is a fun thing to actually zoom in on here in a minute with an actual demo. But before we do, let's decompress that a little bit on the next slide to actually look at what is in these what are these objects and what are these attributes? So it includes vehicles like type and color. And for people, it's the garment color, that's upper garment, lower garment, plus it'll be gender and the presence or absence of a bag carried by that person, okay? So for faces, we can get in a little, get a little more detail if we can classify a face. So we can actually try to estimate a gender, an age range, glasses. These are, and actually what you saw animate there is the little face mask flew in. We actually did that. We added that license free on our AI camera. And it's good to see that feature for two reasons. One, because of the feature itself. But another way of looking at that feature is it shows the investment of kind of the forward future readiness of the camera, the fact that we can add license-free object attribute to that camera and really help in new ways that were unforeseen when we did the general object. So when we search for the object, in a moment, what we're going to show you in the demo is we're clicking the object type and we're clicking the other object attribute we're looking for. So here we're looking for red after we selected the object, the vehicle type. So let's now go to a different in the next slide. Let's do a work from home era investigation. So for our investigation, all right. And yes, there is a crime involved. The AI plugin allows selection of the filters to look for these attributes we were just talking about and narrow the search, okay? When you narrow the search, we accomplish a more efficient forensic search. So for example, you saw us click the garment color, and now we can verify a report. We stop because we actually don't want to show the crime itself. But this has allowed the investigator to verify a report of an illegal use of the corner of this property by someone. Actually, it wasn't done by the person, it was done by the dog. All right, so let's watch this. If you need to see it in action one more time with the click by click, you want to just play it one more time because we sort of described it. And now we're bringing the tool up, we're selecting, we're specifying the actual attribute. We're picking the cameras, and then now we're picking the attributes. We're seeing the hits. We picked the hit that looks likely, and our investigation that would have taken a lot of minutes of searching video is done much more quickly. All right.
And also those bounding boxes are overlaid, but not burned into the image.
Yep, they're optional.
Good point. Very good. All right, next. The video here is going to show another, just that face mask principle, but I want you to view it. I want to abstract as you view this, I want to abstract away from the specifics of it being a face mask. And here, though, in this case, the way this is implemented, we're watching for whether a face mask is present and properly worn. Okay. So, and if it's spoofed, then you're going to see a different best shot like that person, right? And you're going to see it flashing, the absence of a properly worn mask. All right. Now, that's obviously in our times, that particular analytic was brought in for a very particular reason. But it's an example of how we responded to customer demand to make the AI camera recognize something that our integrators really wanted us to deliver. So looking into the future, we're continuing to develop those license-free AI capabilities in addition to the basics that I showed you. It's too early to advertise the specifics, but in the months ahead, we'll have great news for cities, public spaces and gatherings, public venues. So it's going to be fun to show that off. All right, still on AI, the other AI camera, which is actually sometimes only known for its resolution as the 8K, it is an AI camera, but it's also first and foremost an 8K camera. and seeing a couple of examples of the kind of lens and field of view that you can accomplish at these enormous distances. So this one, you know, with those 32 megapixels, this is the detail you get with digital zoom with a really massive wide area of coverage. That's a huge area of coverage. And that is going to become more and more valuable as we move into a new era where these venues are going to get used a lot more.
Yeah, I even spoke to a few of my fellow field application engineers who have done some testing with 8K cameras at 3 different NFL stadiums across the United States and 8K cameras. And what they found was that they were currently using high-end PTZ cameras, but of course, as we know, PTZ cameras are never looking where you need them to when something bad happens. And what they did is they found that they could put the 8K camera, replace maybe half of their PTZs or more with an 8K camera, get much better coverage, still be able to digital zoom, see a scenario that's necessary. If they really need to dive in even deeper than that, they would swing a PTZ over. But as a result, they were able to put less 8K cameras out there to get more coverage than the PTZs that were already out there.
And also, I find that when they get the coverage that we can now deliver, they're able to use the camera for multiple use cases too. Obviously, they want to see, if there's a fight, who threw the punch or what happened, but they can also look at their employees and see, are they covering the sections properly? Are there the different, the ushers or the whatever it might be? There's so many more things they can do from an operation standpoint and be more effective of not needing to have an operator juggling 20 or 30 cameras for a task, whereas they can have, like you said, fewer cameras, but it makes them much more efficient in their operations of searching or live viewing.
Thank you both. We're just seeing the same camera, same principle, but just a different, bigger lens, just to show in a different setting where you might make different decisions on which lens to pair to get, in this case, a very recognizable likeness of a face at a distance of, I think, around 400 feet or so away.
All right, and so finally, we're going to wrap up the presentation. Thank you for sticking with us, talking about the improvements we have made and the increase in the number of models supported in Stratocast. Right now, we have 40 models supported, stretched across our L, Q, and X series cameras. And as you can see with the price and performance, it covers a wide range of use cases. If, for maybe the little, franchisees that need need the cloud storage and recording, you have the L series working on its way up to the Q and then the X. And with the Q and the L, you now also have what we call easy enrollment. You can easily add the cameras using the QR code inside the camera. So when you log into the camera, you'll see in the camera's web GUI a Stratocast. You click on that button, you get the window, and then all you need to do is use your Stratocast app on your phone, scan the QR code, and it will automatically register the camera. You also still have the activation code that if you log into the Stratocast account and you enter in the camera information, Stratocast will give you the activation code, which you could then use to activate as well. So you now have both methods of doing it. And that is a wrap.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you, everyone. I think we've covered a lot.